The following presentation was recorded live in Orlando, Florida, for the 17th Annual Convention of the International Association of Square Dance Callers in 1990.
We're going to start the session on time. This session will be the value of building strong leadership, and we are proud to present it as a partner caller team. And to do the other introductions, we have Mr. Jack Lasry, our moderator for this panel from Hollywood, Florida.
Thank you. To start things off, we're kind of going to introduce ourselves to you individually. I'm going to tell you all about Carolyn. I'm not sure Carolyn's going to tell you all about Jack. And then Art will tell you a little bit about his relationship with Martha.
You're off on the wrong foot.
I always start off on the wrong foot. No, Art and Martha and Carolyn and I have been friends forever. We do so many things together, square dance-wise, that we're really kind of family, and it's kind of neat that we could really be together. Carolyn and I have been part of square dancing since about the time we got married, which was in 18 what? We got married in 1953, and in 1954, square dancing came into our lives. It first came into my life, and then into Carolyn's life, because I, at that time, was working for a recreation program, recreation department, and the director of recreation said to several of us who worked in specific areas that he was going to bring in some square dance callers. And I said, "You're going to do what?" So we're going to put a square dance caller at the park you're at, and a square dance caller at the park so-and-so's at, and so forth. And I had to be there to meet and greet. I was 21 years old, almost 22, I guess, at the time. 22 by that occurrence, I guess. So they always needed somebody to fill in. Now, you go back to those days, and square dancing was about 75% traditional, visiting couple dance choreography. And if you could do an alamandar and a do paso, especially if you could do a do paso in the middle of your alamandar break, you were, quote, a high-level dancer, okay? So it was really very elementary. A few years later, when our children were old enough to be left with babysitters, and we felt comfortable with that, it was about, say, 4 years later, Carolyn and I went back and took lessons, and we were amazed that we had to take about 5 or 6 lessons to learn how to square dance again. So you can readily see that we've kind of grown up together, not only in our lives and our marriage, but in our square dance endeavor. And there was something about the activity, I guess, that was appealing to us right off the bat, because of the fact that we were young, not making a whole lot of money, like the young yuppies of the day, and wanted to do something that we could both enjoy together, and we liked the music, and neither of us were what you would call ballroom dance-oriented folks, that square dancing kind of fit the bill. Well, I had already been doing one-night stand square dance calling, party dances, one-night stand, from about 54 on, and square dancing kind of got into our blood. I left recreation and went into teaching, continued to call, of course, until the recreation department I was working for at that time went back to recreation and said, "You cannot work outside of your job here. You can no more moonlighting, so to speak." And that got difficult. So I went back to teaching and said to Carolyn that square dancing was going to become a little more to us than just our recreation and calling and teaching a class here and there. And we decided to go full bore ahead in 1962 and opened up our first square dance hall, which we call the Trail's End. And from that point on, the leadership aspect that we shared with our own hall changed considerably. As a couple that went out and calls for a club, calls a dance, goes home, doesn't worry about any of the responsibilities of cleaning the hall, setting up the hall, putting out the coffee, collecting the money, working with the politics of planning the club parties, and et cetera, et cetera. You walk in, you call your dance, you walk out. And frankly, at that point, the leadership from my partner's standpoint was very small. She had to be pleasant to the people. If somebody asked her to dance, which she loves to do, she would dance. But when we opened up our own hall, things began to change because the centralized activity that we were part of was our Square Dance Center. As our programs grew and developed, a period of 10 years went by, and the lease that we had on our little Square Dance Hall, the first one, which was about 15, 18, 17 square hall, ran out. In 72, we built our own facility, which was rather large. And many of the clubs, all of the clubs, came to us and said, Jack, Carolyn, no more. We cannot run a club situation with 25, 35, 37 squares coming in the door all the time. It's too much responsibility for the food, the refreshments, for this or that. So we evolved, if you will, into caller-operated clubs. And then our leadership role began to be shared in several different ways. Carolyn's primary responsibility became that of preparing for me, who then had to make the announcements, to keep track of all the birthdays and all the anniversaries. She had to keep track of people when they came in the door to sign in, collect their money, to make the coffee and the tea and the Sanka, and be the friendly butterfly, if you will, to smooth over anything that might be happening between people if that happened, or to set the stage for people when they walk in the door. How are you tonight? Meet and greet. How are the kids? And, you get to know families. You get to know people. She became, for me, the person who I would trust about the sound. Too loud, too soft, at the back, however we would have it set. And if I got running off at the mouth sometime on a workshop or a tip and start calling a little bit longer, and the people are, well, let's try that one more time, or let me try one more, and you see the tongues hanging out, she would be really neat to walk by and give me this. Right? Now, she was showing leadership at that particular stage by saying to me, hey, dummy, time to quit. All kinds of leadership. There's a leader who runs in front of a charging army with a flag and says, let's storm the doors. And there's the quiet little soldier in the trenches. The quiet little soldier in the trenches who takes the hand of a new soldier in the war, in the battle, who's scared to death, said, I'll take care of you, kid. Follow me. And that's the kind of leader Carolyn is. She's quiet. She doesn't make announcements. It's not the thing she enjoys doing. In fact, right now I'm under duress for volunteering her services. I may never get another cooked meal in my life after this escapade. So her leadership and our ability to work together as a team, providing for the dancers that come and dance in our program, is subtle. Okay? It's not the kind of stand up at a stage and say, rah, 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 we're going to go to visit this club tonight, or we're planning a trip or a weekend or so forth, and come on and see me and sign up. Not that kind of rah-rah gal. But the people respect her probably more than they do me. I'm serious. She's their first contact when they come in the hall. And we've talked about our relationship in square dancing and observed many, many younger couples in caller schools where we talk about partners' relationship with their husband or wife as the caller and their responsibilities. And we're kind of taken back a little bit that this now and me and younger generation, it kind of flopped over into square dancing and the square dance partner relationship, where a lot of the girls say, well, that's his thing. Okay? It's all right if he goes and calls square dances, but that's not for me. I'm going to stay home and do my thing. Of course, we're of the older generation that says we do things together. She supports me in what I wanted to be when I gave up teaching 22 years ago to become a full-time caller, to call full-time. She supported me rather than gave me the negative side of all of this. Of course, we talked about it where? Together. Okay, and that's part of leadership. the fact that you do things and talk things out together shows that she leads me into some line of thinking that maybe I had not thought of, making those decisions. And that still takes place today. Almost, except for this meeting. She'll forgive me. All right. Let's see. Thursday I can get a decent meal when we get home, right? Not that the meals here are bad. So how we show leadership is in many, many different and varied ways. I'm going to stop at this point, let Art and Martha get acquainted with you a little bit, and then we'll carry this a little bit further as our time, permits. And we want you to be thinking about situations that you've been part of in your relationship with your caller partner. And because we've been in this thing all of our lives, perhaps maybe we could throw a little light or share a little viewpoint with you on something that may be a little bit bothersome or troubling to you at any particular stage of working together and leading the square dancers and the square dance movement in your particular area or your particular individual situation. On my immediate right, from Tampa, Florida, Art, the man, and Martha, the lady Springer.
You want me to... Okay.
First off, we'll get this down there where I can reach it.
You and Colin make it great.
We've been in this wonderful activity about 29 years. We're in our 29th year. We started over in Wiesbaden, Germany. I was with the United States Air Force and stationed in Germany and got involved in square dancing there. In about 1961, we were living in government quarters in what we used to call stairwells, which were large apartments. And we used to watch these people every Wednesday night go out in these funny clothes. And unfortunately, they never invited us. And we got to wondering, well, what were we doing wrong, But what were we doing wrong, Finally come their introduction classes, their beginner classes. So we were invited to say, oh, come on with us. So we ventured off and fell in love with it immediately. At that particular time, like Jack, our lessons only required 10 lessons. We knew it all at 10 lessons. The hardest thing we had to do was square through 4 hands. If you get that, you had it made. So we cruised along there and danced for maybe not even 6 months until our caller had to be rotated, Lloyd Poole. So they says, we have to have another caller. So he offered a school in a short clinic in calling. And I attended along with 9 other people, 9 guys and 1 lady, which would make 11 of us all together. And this was really a new ball game for me. Now, being in the Air Force and being a non-commissioned officer, leadership wasn't something that I hadn't been introduced to before, but on a different scale. Mostly in the leadership in your military, it's mostly a lot of, we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and there's not too many questions to ask. So anyway, we got involved in the square dance activity. Lo and behold, I went to the caller school, and of the whole class, myself and one other gentleman, Shelley Blunt, was selected to call for the club, 143 membership couples in that club. I say both of us because neither one of us knew enough to call a whole dance. But we were going to work at it and try. And it was to the point I used to write down everything I'd say, and we're trying to learn stuff, and learn how to handle people and get along with people in a civilian type way. And of course, Martha was there at that time. We had 5 children, didn't we? We had 5 children at that time, and all youngsters. But she was involved in the square dance activity at that time, which we were not really too busy at that time with it. We come back to the States in 1964 to Texas, and we had our 6th child, and that was in between square dancing. Yeah. So then I made a tour to Vietnam and came back, and eventually retired in 1968 in Panama City, Florida, where we called once a week and co-called with Mike Litzenberger at that time for the Friendly Squares. After leaving that, we retired into Tampa, Florida, and then we got really into the activity. Now, our activity is a little bit different than for Jack's. We had never been involved or in owning a hall. Everything that we did, we had to go out and find halls and get the dancers organized. And a few clubs we have called for through the leadership have been officer-run clubs, which to me is great when you can get the dancer involved. And of course, Martha would go along with me as many times as she could. Of course, she stayed behind quite a few times when I was traveling to outside city dances because of the children. But as they grew older, she became more involved, and she was always at my side. And as most of you know, as callers, that of course your wife is just about your best critic. She can tell you, what you're doing wrong or what kind of a dance you're calling, and you have to listen to her, and she knows. So, say for the last 15 years, traveling extensively throughout the United States, and running a home program, a full home program, she has been right there by my side. Like Carolyn, she is the person that greets them at the door in a friendly manner, and talks to them, and she's a good sensing post for maybe little problems that the dancer will not get involved with the caller with. She has a better feeling actually for that than I do. My main concern is if I'm going to, produce a good dance, call a good dance, and entertain them. She's going to be there for the birthday list, the anniversary list, walking around throughout the entire dance. She's congregating with the people, in touch with the people. And this is one of the biggest things that dancers love, to be pampered and to be friendly with them and receive their feelings and produce your feelings to the dancer. So anyway, we've enjoyed this activity for 29 years, and like I say, most of the calling jobs that I have had not been in our own hall. We work several halls in the Tampa area. We have a full program, so we're in contact with the dancers, and we've really enjoyed the activity very much. And the leadership end of it, we're still learning about leadership. You want me to go ahead into mine? Okay, so anyway, let's get into the real topic of this program, which was basically the value of building strong leadership in the caller-partner relationship. Leadership, now that's a pretty big word. Consists of 10 letters, and at times it appears to be a mountain when we have chose to fulfill that obligation as callers partners in the role of a caller and partner. As callers and partners in leadership, I think we can understandably say that we're the backbone of the activity. However, the dancer is the main product. Square dancing, if you can remember, or you've been involved with it for a number of years, there's been big changes in square dancing. I can remember back when I started in the 60s, everything was on like a little quiet country town. You were enjoying the activity, no big hassle, and then all at once it becomes like a big city moves in. Through the years, the activity has grown to a large amount that the leadership has really had to expand along with it. And at this time, I think, we've got a lot of young callers out on the road that are doing a fantastic job of calling and entertaining the dancer. However, when I say young callers, they do not have the experience in the leadership end of it that the older and experienced callers have in it. They don't have that because they haven't had the time to settle down in a home program and get involved that close enough into the activity to get into this leadership role, into a real deep role into leadership. You go on the road, you're on the road one night here, one night there, one night somewhere else. You're going in there, you do a dance, you entertain them, but you don't see the problems that are involved around a club activity until you become a club caller, or you're calling that same group of people week after week, and it's an officer-run club, and you have problems. They come to you because you're their leader. You have chosen this. When you have become a caller and a partner in this activity, you have accepted one portion of the title leadership. How far you continue into that leadership role is what goals that you're going to set for yourself. And there's an overwhelming need right now for a good partner leader in leadership with the activity and the change that it had. With the new callers, a lack of experience, and a lack of exposure to problems. In researching some stuff here, I come up with a thing that was produced in Zip Coder. It was actually written by Herb Egender, and it has a lot of good thoughts in it and a lot of good ideas about leadership pertaining to the caller partner. And it's a little thing, it's called How Do You Spell Leadership? And under the L, you have to learn to get excited about what you're doing. The enthusiasm is contagious. Love the people you work with, and with the square dance movement that you represent. Be enthused with the activity. Once you have the tendency to get kind of weary of it, then it shows in your performance. It shows in the job that you're doing in calling a dance. Examine your own motives for wanting a position of leadership. Do you really want to serve others, or are you merely serving your own ambitions and boasting your ego? Do you really want to get involved in the activity and become a leader, or are you just looking for the limelight with your name on a marquee or your name on a poster? Joe Blow is doing this festival, such and such date. Everybody come. Or do you really want to get into the activity and guide it in the best direction where it's beneficial to everybody in the activity? You want to avoid arrogance, impatience, irritability, and resentment. Adapt to the group and adhere to the code of ethics that is set forth through our callers' associations. A lot of this you can learn through your local associations by making yourself available in the role of leadership in your local organizations. If they ask you to become, say, be an officer in the organization, accept that. Even the smallest office, you'll learn something where you can progress up into the president's role or the chairman's role, or whatever you want to shoot for, you can do. Develop a sensitivity to the needs of others, and this is where a lot of our wives come into being in the square dance activity. They have a better feel at your dances, talking to the people. Maybe you don't get around and talk to them quite enough. I know that's one thing that Martha gets on me about, that I don't really mix as much as I should. And I don't know, maybe I'm too concerned with the dance itself in producing a good dance, an enjoyable dance. Establish goals and evaluate progress toward those goals that you are headed for periodically. Check them out. See how you're progressing in the activity that whatever goals you have set forth. If you don't know where you're going, how can you effectively organize available resources to get there? So you've really got to set goals for yourself and wondering, how far in the activity do I really want to go? Responsibilities of many kinds accompany any position in leadership. These include responsibility to yourself, to your family, to your peers, to those you lead, and to the square dance movement. So it's a responsibility upon us as leaders to try to guide this great activity for the betterment of it. Set examples. Once you become a leader, you're in the spotlight. We all know that. I don't think there's anything you can do in a town, a local town, that you're in the spotlight. Everybody recognizes you. Whether you do a good dance or a bad dance, they still recognize you. You become a focal point to them. You're their caller, your leader. They're going to look at you, the way you dress, the way you act, the way you dance, even the way you carry on your partner-caller relationship. You have to be really on your best behavior and produce a good image in your public. Have the courage of your convictions. You know what is right. Do it. Do not be persuaded by selfish pressure groups and vocal dissidents. Lead rather than being led. Now, let's take a look through leadership in your club, where I know probably most of you run in it. You'll have a certain group of the real hotshot dancers, and they want a little more, they're disregarding the slower dancer or the dancers that really can't dance that well. You have to be able to smooth this over and work it out to where you can please both categories of dancer. Kind of smooth out the real hotshot dancer that's putting the pressure on you. So we want to raise the level of this club. We want to do this. We want to do that. But you have to use good decisions in order to smooth this over to where the whole club benefits, the whole activity. Is what you're doing in the best interest of square dancing? That's a good yardstick. Integrity, initiative, imagination, indifference to personal gain should characterize your actions. And then pride in your profession, in your position, organization, and those you represent should reflect in your leadership role in your personal activities. So there again, you're really in the limelight, and the way you conduct yourself, your dress, your mannerisms, is all reflects on a lot of people will try to impersonate you in the way you dress. Say, well, he dresses nice and he looks good and he dances the way you should really dance. And they're going to copy this. They're going to want to project the same image. So all in all, in the leadership end of it, that Martha and I, we think we've come a little ways in being successful in the leadership end of it. And we're always striving to do a little bit more along that same route. You have anything you want to say? This is the hardest thing to get these two girls on the microphone, I think, in the world. I keep trying this even at dances, at birthday times and anniversary times. You kind of have to coax them. I'll give her the mic and I said, well, go ahead now. You do the announcements, and she doesn't want to get involved that much. She says, that's all right. I'll turn all the bass in, and you won't have any problem. You got anything you want to say? If not, I'll turn it over to Jack.
We're not showing much leadership up here, are we? Can't get our girls to do anything this morning. How do you show your... Go ahead, Art.
They can lead us.
They sure do lead us. Just a few little thoughts to add what Art was talking about, and then we'd like to field from your side of the fence any questions or comments that we would like to hear from you. I think from our wives' standpoint that they probably are leading by example more than they are by flag waving. All right? Now, what do I mean by example? If they come to the dance dressed in slacks, and they're only there to sit at the door and collect the money and put on the coffee and leave, you might just well have hired a maid or a person who works for you to to do those chores. The dancers accept the fact that our wives and us as the caller, or vice versa, whatever the case might be, are a team. And they do like very much to see us both at the dances that they are calling. So if your partner sits in the corner and knits and doesn't appear to be part of the activity or to care about the activity at all, that's a negative form of leadership, isn't it? Do you agree to that? Negative to the rest of the people. Say, well, she must not be interested, or he must not be interested. It's not only how we dress and the appearance that we make, but people can tell whether it's a false front these girls are putting on. Do they really want to be there? You know, you can tell by the way they look, the way they act, the way they talk. When we as callers dance with our partners, or whenever we are dancing, and we like to cut up, and we've just worked our dickens off through our class to show them the proper styling, the way it ought to be, what kind of, quote, example are we setting? Now, that's, again, a subtle form of leadership. Nobody's standing up and saying, now watch me dance, right? But just the way we act and the way we do when we are dancing and somebody else is calling, believe me, guys, the dancers are watching us. It's a good chance for us to show our leadership. When we go out after the dance, into the community coffee shops or pizza parlors or whatever, how we behave in the coffee shop, pizza parlor, may be the most important of all, because we're setting an example of what people think about square dancers. Oh, here come those square dancers again, that rowdy bunch. They're going to get all, bombed out on the beer tonight and be loud and noisy. Think about the impression we are making to the public. And if your wife likes to drink more beer than you do, well, you do the driving, right? Carolyn contributes a great deal to our club dance program because we don't have the officers. Now, how does she contribute there? There are special events come out through the course of the year, right? The holiday time, the St. Patty's Days, the Mother's Day. She is constantly dreaming up little things to make those special nights something special. I think, you want to tell them about the thing you cooked up for the Mother's Day thing, honey? That was just super. Maybe you feel like I wish I was the mother.
Well, on the holidays, we try to do like a little special party. For example, on Mother's Day, can you hear me? We will pick different things, like, say, for example, the one with the most children, or most grandchildren, great-grandchildren, longest married, different things like that. And then we'll give each of those that fit into that category a carnation or a rose or something special like that. Just, makes a little special party night. You can't give it to everybody, so. And on Valentine's Day this year, what I did was I got some Valentine stickers and I pasted them on the back or underneath on the seat of some of the chairs just scattered around the room. And whoever happened to be sitting in the chair with the sticker on it, we gave a nice bouquet of flowers. They really enjoyed that. So those were a couple of little special things. What's up?
Okay, Martha, the pressure's on. She even picks up the chair when I knock it off. Now, there are several... Oh, okay. Come on, Martha. When you're that close, I'm ready.
Oh, dear. I never considered myself a leader. I just, by the grace of God, married a man who is one. And sometimes it puts you on the spot when your husband is a leader, because the dancers expect you to also be able to furnish them with a certain degree of leadership. It helps to be charismatic with the dancers. You can convince them much easier if you are pleasant and, they say you can get a lot more flies with honey, and you can certainly get a lot more out of club members if you are pleasant to them. And as you all know, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. And when you have some conflicts, jealousies, gossipers in the club, it's up to you to keep your ears open. That's why it's good if you do mingle with your dancers, because then you have an idea of what's going on. It's not a big shock one day when you find out that there's this terrible split that's going to take place, and you can go to your husband and say, hey, you know, this is going on, and better nip it in the bud. But I think maybe it's a good idea to let y'all do some talking. I've talked enough.
I want you to know you have been part of two firsts. I'm serious now. I really am. Martha and Carolyn speaking. Will we ever get the mic back again, Art? One of the places that the caller's partner can be of probably the greatest assistance is during our Learn to Dance programs, when we are teaching our classes, teaching people how to square dance. Because as you know, the folks coming in the door are a bit apprehensive. They're a little unsure of themselves. They're not sure of the people they're going to be meeting there, et cetera, et cetera. And the partner's relationship, as they sign in at the door and fill out that little registration card, and observing a square having a little bit of a problem, and steps over there and to see if they can assist. It's subtle, but it gives the feeling to the people who are in the class, who are learning to dance, hey, those guys care about us. And what better example of leadership is there than when you show you care about something or somebody, or that somebody meets with success. A number of years ago, our Callers Association offered a CPR course. In fact, we've done it 3 times. Now, by giving up a little of your time for a CPR course, you never know when in your own class situation, club dance situation, you folks may be the only one who know how to administer CPR. Have any of you been in a situation where that was necessary at a dance that you were at? Were you in a position to help that person? Don't raise your hand, but say to yourself, well, if I had known CPR, I could have. Well, that's, again, a form of leadership, isn't it? Taking some responsibility to be prepared for sorts of emergencies. From our particular standpoint, I believe that CALLERLAB has provided us with an opportunity to show some real leadership. And sometimes I shudder to think that people come to our CALLERLAB conventions and give a lot of, quote, lip service to what CALLERLAB really stands for. Its code of ethics, its programs, its image, and go right back home and go back and do the same things that really are negative to our activity, and yet proud to say that I'm a CALLERLAB member. And then the dancer or the club or the situation looks at them and say, well, he's a CALLERLAB member, but if that's what CALLERLAB is all about, what good is it? For example, caller comes in, traveling caller, signs contract, going to call a plus dance for your program. And second call out of his mouth is something on the A1 list. Probably be more appropriate to say he was signed to call in a mainstream dance, and the second call out of his mouth was a track 2 or something off the plus list. Is this showing leadership? Is this representing CALLERLAB in the leadership role that we would hope all of us fit into? I have some rules and regulations that would fit these kind of characters very quickly. As the officer of a club, I would walk up to them and say, that's once. Your contract says you will call a mainstream dance. Now that's club leadership coming up to the man who's doing the calling, or the lady. And he said, you called track 2, which was a plus call. Yeah, but they all did it. I said, are you sure they all did it? We have people here only know mainstream, and they're part of the 10%, not the 90. But everybody knew it was going to be a mainstream dance. So you call one more plus call, and you avoided your contract, and we won't pay you at the end of the dance. Now, if club folks would exert that kind of leadership and let them hurt right in the pocketbook, which is about the only place some people feel pain, then we wouldn't have some of the problems that we have today. The callers, many of them are inclined to try to get away with anything they can. But if the leadership puts the finger down and says, then we don't have that problem. How do you handle that as a leader when your responsibility is to conduct that kind of a program? Dancers come to the wives very often when they don't come to us with a problem. Agreed, partners? Okay? I think it's a good idea that at that particular time you do what you can to resolve their particular problem, but just don't forget about it. Relay it to your partner so that you are both aware of any particular situation, that this troubling situation, this particular person. So you can both chime in together and talk it out as a couple that's working together for the betterment of the club if you're first and square dancing second in that particular case. The wives of the dancers in your classes and clubs from time to time might find, oh, my back hurts, I can't dance. Are you ready to jump in and fill out that square so 7 people don't have to fill in? Are you ready, willing, and able to be that 8th person to fill out the square that is necessary in a class or a club to get a square back up on the floor rather than having, one couple missing or one person missing? Are you willing to give of yourself? Looks like nothing, but it's leadership. Those people showing, well, gee, Carolyn really cares. She jumped in there and danced with so-and-so or got another lady to fill in the square and she played the boy's part or whatever. That's leadership. It's not flag-waving leadership. But again, it's leadership because it helps your program be more successful and practical for that particular need. I think both Art and I, and golly, great Carolyn and Martha, have said a few things, and now it's your turn. Because I know each and every one of us has been confronted in our square dance, quote, careers with some troubling little problems, perhaps, that maybe we can share a little light on. I'm not Ann Landers, and you're not, what's the other gal's name? Dear Abby. But we've been around long enough to probably have heard it all, if you know what I mean, really, from A to Z. So start shooting, guys, and I'll point to Carolyn or Martha or Art, see who might want to, kind of pick up the ball and try to do their very best. No problems? No questions? Yes, dear. Who's that, man? No. Please, the mic. Oh, where is the mic? Oh, okay. Please step to the microphone. Yes, we're being taped, and there'll be no blank spots.
I had a problem last...
Please state your name and where you're from first.
Okay. Charlotte Green, New York, Bayside, Queens, New York City. We call on Long Island, but we live in Bayside. And I had an interesting problem. We had a couple who were not married. They were boy and girlfriend. And I was happy. I thought, that they were going to continue. They were beginners. They were going to continue until the end of May. And then it turned out that the young man's lady friend went to Ireland. And I said, Pete, what's going to happen now? I mean, is she just gone for a little while? If so, that's okay. I'll fill in. Oh, no, he said. She has her children, whatever it is. She's going to be there. I said, then you need another person. You need a partner. Oh, sure. He didn't think that there was anything. I would just snap my fingers. I would find a partner. Well, I remembered the end of the previous year when we had another beginner's class. I had this lovely gal who broke up with her boyfriend. And she said to me, try to get me somebody. And I said, that's my role in life, right? I mean, I'm always trying... all of us, wouldn't we love it? Every one of us. These people, they think somewhere hidden in a back room, we have a guy or a gal, and if only they're nice to us, then we'll pull them out. And I think to myself, wouldn't it be wonderful? We're talking about yuppies. I could be a trillionaire if we could just... But I did remember this gal. I really liked her, and I said, gee, If only I could get somebody nice for Joy. So I said to Hank, what do you think? He said, think about it. That's what it is, girls, our leadership role. Think about it. He's busy with choreography. We have to think about getting the right guy and the right gal, right? So I'm saying to myself, perfect. And I felt they looked good together. I had it all arranged. I was already going
you sure
to
your
be...
name isn't Abby?
I was going to be I was the matchmaker. I said to myself, I was already thinking they would have a square dance wedding. See, I mean, I had the whole thing. It was great. Right looks and both of them, you know, academically perfect. Well, I called her. I gave her a big sales pitch. She had to go to the dentist. I said, forget the dentist. You come. Anyway, they came. They liked each other. And finished with the girl in Ireland. See? So anyway, meanwhile, I had a warm body there. I mean, that's good, you know, because I don't like to have to be the one each week to fill in because I'm too necessary running around, running here and there. And if I'm sort of stuck, shall we say, committed always to be this guy's partner, I'm not helping much when it comes to being available all over the place. So I thought to myself, okay, at least Joy can fill in between the time the Irish lady comes back. Okay, so comes time, the Irish lady came back to visit, but she didn't know anything. So she's been away, so she can't dance. And now comes the problem, because he wants her to dance. And I didn't want to make him unhappy. I mean, there's a problem, okay? So what did I do? I said, okay, let's see what happens. Let her fill in, and if it's too much, I'll jump in. So I hovered around. I'm a good hoverer. That's another thing we have to be, hoverers, right? The end of the story is, I will tell you, I did not become the great matchmaker because they're not going to get married because he still has that lady. But he likes her. He likes this gal. And who knows? Maybe it won't work out. And maybe he will. Anyway.
Okay.
I can only say, I'll only tell you this.
Would you come back next year and tell us?
The only thing I can say. Only thing I can say is, gals, try. Keep thinking of the one person in the background, somebody who says, get me a guy, and it might work out. That's all I have to say.
Very good. You got to come to Vegas, so let us know what happened next year, right? You know, that is the major job, especially if you're living in a retirement or calling in a retirement area where we have so many widows. We really do. And the guys get used up. You cannot imagine. The girls line up first night of class. Can we find a guy? 10 women to every 4 guys, you know, that kind of a thing. But I don't know how many weddings you've arranged. But we have had a great many over the years, believe it or not. And many, probably most, because she could pick out, like you, the right gal to try to get with the right guy. And it's a pleasant experience. Part of our activity today when you're dealing with older people. It really is. And most of our dancers across the country are a little bit older than it used to be. Any other questions or comments? This was kind of cute. But yes, dear, please come to the microphone. We ought to have a line at that microphone. While you're standing in line, 4 or 5 of you, think up something.
I'm Peggy Loney from California, and I guess the problem is you have a couple that cannot dance. The club has asked them to either stop dancing or to come back to another class. The first thing they do is come to you. Any suggestions?
Well, we've all probably got some thoughts, but I've been yakking a bit. Art? Martha?
I know realizing that's probably one of the hardest things that really you're going to come up against. And we've come up against it several times. The first time was the worst. They always say the first time's the worst. But we run into situations, and the way I have handled it is I try to isolate these people at some given time and honestly explain to them the whole situation. It's not their disability to learn to dance. It's their ability that they are not up to, that all dancers do not learn at the same level. And there are times when some of us have to go repeat classes to learn to dance, or they have not kept up with their program in dancing. And I try to explain it to them the best way I can and get it to them, just ease it to them there. And every time it's been successful. There's really, of course, they've been hurt. Deep inside, they've been hurt. But all in all, there has some of them come back and thanked you for it, and they've progressed, and now they are up to the capabilities of dancing with the people. Of course, you're going to run into that class of, that there's going to be strugglers in every dance, in every class, and these I try to possibly, I hate the word eliminate, but I try to set them aside if they're going to become a hindrance in the learning ability of the majority of the class. Then I honestly take them aside and I think, I think maybe you should wait and start over again. There's something along the way. You've either possibly missed too many of the first sessions, and explain to them in the best way I can to eliminate that situation. That's the only thing you can do with it. As far as just abruptly saying, well, you're going to have to leave. You can't dance, so why don't you go down somewhere else and do that? But what I try to do is I'll take them aside and talk to them in private, catch them at the end of the dance before they leave, and maybe, and you don't want to really let it go along too long to where it becomes obvious that something's going to have to be done. Then the whole group knows that, as the leader, he's going to have to talk to these people and solve this problem. But that's the way I do it. I kind of either at the end of the dance, or I might catch them sometime, maybe before the dance, before we even make contact with them before they arrive. But most of them, the main times that I would catch them would be at the end of a dance, before they make a little comment. Could I see you a minute? By yourself, when nobody else there, everybody's left, and then talk to them and explain the situation to them. They'll readily accept that better and more comfortably than they would if you just take them aside and said, well, you're going to have to leave. You're not up to the level of this club, so you're going to have to go dance somewhere else and go over there and get your money back, and that's it. So you got to handle it in a diplomatic way.
It is a most difficult situation. I think we have an obligation to those people to first do everything humanly possible we can to save them. Okay? Suggest perhaps that they take 2 classes a week rather than just one, that extra practice. Tape record the sessions. Listen to them. Try to get friends over to the house. But when it reaches the point that it's obvious that they're just not going to be able to continue and move along at the pace that's necessary today, which is one of the problems we have, too much to teach, not enough time, they usually will be the people who will say to you, but it's not my fault. I don't make any mistakes. I'm never the one in that call. I didn't cause that square to break down. Generally speaking, they react back to you that way, as nice as you try to be. So I try to throw the blame on myself, saying to them, look, I am a teacher and you are the learner. Sometimes classes and teachers don't really mix too well. My presentation might be done in such a way that it's just not the way it's easy for you to learn. Another caller may present this same material in another way. And for the good of both of us and our class, that we would appreciate very much if perhaps you'd start in with another class or wait till the fall and start over again. Because I've seen people who I've had to say this to, and I've seen them on the dance floor 3 or 4 years later, and they finally made it. But when you're dealing with X number of squares in a class, and you've got this one that's holding the whole class back, you have to make that choice. Are you going to lose that one couple, or are you going to lose the rest of your class? Because then you see people avoiding them, don't you? They try to run away from that couple. What's more embarrassing to a person or a couple to see people trying to avoid you? Is there something wrong with me? Yes, there is. You're just not able to move along at the pace that's necessary. Did we help you with that answer? Yeah, but, right? Oh, the club already told them to leave. Oh, mercy. That's difficult. I've never had that happen. Because in most of Florida, the classes are handled by the callers. In your area, too. In some areas, I know the clubs tell you, you're going to teach that class. You got 25 lessons to teach them through A3. Right? Now, get them ready, and then when they can't fit, because how many could, then they shy away from them after that first night, and they pick on those who can really cut it, and they want those, and the rest go. I don't know what I would do, to be honest with you, if these people had already been told. Maybe don't give up. You know, maybe you need a little more practice, and this isn't the right group, and that kind of thing.
I'm Clara Carroll from...
You want to talk? You have to get to the microphone, please.
Oh,
I'm talking to...
sorry.
We got wind in the back.
Anyway, I'm Clara Carroll from California also. My husband also says to the people that he is aware of that is having the problem in learning that naturally if you can and have a free evening, he will try to find them another group to attend. Then if they're still having problems, he will mention, well, keep up as much as you can. But then in our area, we do have the January classes. Not all clubs do this, but some do. And then he will say, well, why don't you go through this class again? Maybe this caller can get through to you on these problems that you're having. Maybe it's that you just cannot learn my way of teaching. Therefore, we're not losing these people, because those people sometimes be really the backbone of the club. They are willing to do a lot of their share. So just because they can't do the fast dancing, they are not giving something to square dancing.
Back to the club, hardest club workers. This lady, the other lady's question, though, or problem is more difficult than just that, because of the fact somebody had already told this couple to check out.
Well,
and then they came to us as caller, teacher, partners, and said, I don't want to quit square dancing, I love it. And they tell me they don't want me. Now, how do you handle that? Or have you ever had to?
Possibly just say, well, just because this club says you can't dance doesn't mean that there isn't a club out there that you can dance with. Because there are mainstream dancers that their clubs are mainstream. They don't want to go any higher. So maybe this is where those people, once they get the mainstream down, can dance. And so just say, well, where do you live? Find a place that another club that maybe they could go through the beginner's class and learn, and then if it's a mainstream club, and they will feel comfortable there. That's all. Just, you've got to smooth over their feelings. I know it's...
Try to save them the best way you can.
Try to keep them, you know.
You know, what you just alluded to is important, too, because so many of our square dance clubs today, their class destination point is a plus club. Right?
Yes.
How many of your club class destinations are aimed at going into a plus dance? Put your hands up. Don't be ashamed, because we're 90% that way in many areas. Okay? So if you have a dancer who needs some mainstream dancing for a year or two before they move up, don't let them quit dancing. This lady has really hit it on the head. Steer them at least to somebody who's calling mainstream, if there is such an animal in your area. Very good. Can we take the next lady? Those are good comments there. Thank you.
Orphe Marcellus from Thornton, Ontario. I've been a caller for 40 years, and I'm married to a caller. And I have a little present or something to say that I hope I can say in a positive way, and that is, over the years, I've been amazed at women who stay married to square dance callers, because I always felt that in presentations and in magazines and in articles, the wives of square dance callers, if I had been given these roles and these outlines, I certainly felt I would never marry a square dance caller. So I thought at this session it would be a wonderful time to hear from these wonderful women who have turned these two very ordinary men into these marvelous square dance callers. And here we are talking about technical things that callers talk about. And I would love to hear why, Carol, or the process of you deciding that you would support these men and give this leadership, even though Art said that you were partners. He still said, when there was some criticism, that you were on his back, which meant he was criticizing you, or hasn't really accepted you as it was his choice of words. I know he's accepted you as you. I know that you are wonderful square dance couples, but over the years, I've been hurt the most by the way callers refer to their wives in a lot of general ways. Truly, the wives of callers do such a tremendous job. Like, I was married and my husband died, and I had a support couple. Like, he supported me in different ways. He didn't always support me like by making coffee and things, but he did support me in many ways. Then I had a support couple for the years I was a widow, and Mac and I are both calling, and we've had some problems with dealing with the fact that he would still like me to be the coffee maker, although I have been calling for 40 years, because of women's role. And I don't really want to make a strong statement for Women's Lib, but I'm probably doing that. But I'd like the session to hear. I'd like to hear, not from Jack and Art in this session, but from the girls, to say, how did you come to this agreement to do this? How you...
Her name is Hitler. She said, you will do it now.
You just negatived her. But don't do that anymore, Jack. Always please be positive, because we know you need and love Carolyn, and she has been so supportive. But I love to hear the process you went through to decide that you would support him, to allow him to be the leader, the wonderful leader he is, and the same with Martha.
Well, I would say for us, I mean, we were married, we had young children, we got into square dancing as an activity we could enjoy together, and his decision to become a caller, it just sort of evolved. He started doing one-nighters, and, it just sort of evolved, and it grew, and he certainly had no plan, I don't feel, for himself to become the caller, he has evolved to be. Just started out slowly as a hometown caller, and as a wife, you just sort of evolve along with it. Yeah, then he was teaching school and a caller as well, and it came to the point, something had to give, either one or the other. So, we did discuss the fact that we made a decision together, I guess I should say, that he would give a try to becoming a full-time caller, which was agreeable to me. And because I enjoy the activity, I do miss dancing as much as I used to be able to dance, but through all the years of us having a hall, generally on one or other of the nights, I was lucky enough to always have a regular dance partner, somebody I danced with. So I think that helped me to maybe enjoy the activity more, enjoy it as a caller's wife more, because I knew one of the nights I was going to also be a dancer. And only the last few years do I not have a regular partner to dance with. So I feel fortunate all those years to have had that. And I don't know, I enjoy my role. I enjoy us being able to do this activity together. Although I'm basically at home, I don't travel with him very much. My advice is to be yourself. You know, don't try to be someone you're not. Be yourself and treat people maybe as you would if you had them in your own home. Be pleasant, be courteous, whatever.
Martha?
I have an idea what you're alluding to. Our spouses have quite large egos. They have to. I mean, let's face it. In order to do what they're doing, they have to have an ego. And pardon? Yes. Well, you're just about my age, and we're of the old school. Now, if you were one of the younger women callers these days, no reflection, who are more liberated, you know, they might talk down to their partner, their male partner, a little bit. Because I think the younger women caller has to have an ego also, and she would be more apt to be more free in the way that she would correct her partner or order her partner around, or although I doubt that the male partner would put up with too much of that, because divorces are very prevalent these days again. But I don't know. I just feel that sometimes I have felt, as you all have felt, I guess at one time or another, that I was a second-class citizen. I'm just Art's wife, you know. They don't know my name a lot of times. It's just I'm an appendage of his. And so you do get a bit of an inferiority complex. But you just have to, I guess, you just have to love him enough to put up with it. You know? You agree, Roy? Okay, Nona, let's see what you have to say there.
Let me redeem myself. No, when I mentioned beforehand that about criticism, I mean it in a constructive way, that she can point out things, criticism for me, that I do, that I should probably perfect a little better in my image and in my calling and what I'm doing. I say the wife is one of your best critics, not meaning any disrespect or saying anything to her in a disrespectful way, because that's the most important thing in my life is right here with my children. But anyway, I think the caller's wife is one of the most difficult roles to live by, with him on the road or traveling. And like I say, we have egos, I'll admit it. And there's one of the biggest egos just walked in the door. Hello, Dave. But anyway, back to that, the wife has an important role to the caller, and it's really an unthoughtful, untiring, and it's a hard row to hoe, as you might say.
On our side of the fence, Carolyn, and I think Martha for the most part too over the years, has been my wife. She hasn't worked out of the home in a separate job and then have to come home, fix dinner, get ready with the kids, and then follow me or chase with me off to a dance, whether it be at our own hall or, down the road a little bit or wherever it might be. And I think the pressures on our younger generation callers today, where probably both parties are working, and if they have young children, this puts an extreme strain on her role at the dance or to come to the dance with her partner or he with his partner. So we're kind of like the old school, we're the old timers when the guy was able to earn enough money to support his wife. And independently, we have become very wealthy, becoming square dance callers. So there. And if you believe that, I have a little bridge outside, right? But we have a moment for just one more person. And let me add one other thing about this lady on my left. As most of you know, I've had more than my share of health problems. And I think the true colors come through with your partner's ability to help you and stand by you when the days seem to be the darkest. And whether you have the health problems or not, there are times when we as callers kind of come home from a dance or a program and we're new at it, or things aren't just going very well and we're very down and we're discouraged and, it's a bleak day and, man, maybe I ought to sell my equipment roll, and if your wife says, yeah, why don't you go ahead and sell it? I might see something of you once in a while, or see you once in a while. I get to go out together. That's really not what he really wants to hear, is it? Or she wants to hear. She wants a little compassion about maybe tomorrow will be a better day, and, you'll call a better dance next time. Come on, get together. Something must have been bugging you. Got time for one more little comment, and then a few closing remarks, and we're getting close to that lunchtime hour. Yes?
My name is Winona Savory, and I'm from here in Florida. My husband's been calling about 20 years or more, and I have what seems to be a unique problem. We have a lot of singles who come to our club, want to learn to dance. We teach them to dance, and I get up there and I play the boy's part. Now that they've learned to dance, they don't have partners, and they fight over me. They treat me in ways they would never treat a single man. How do you handle a situation like that?
You mean to dance with you?
As the male partner for the single women.
Well, we have a situation that's a little similar to that, but I don't know, that's extreme, I think. We have a good singles club in our area that handles the fact that there usually are, not all the time, there usually are more ladies at the dance than there are men. And they have devised a numbering system of sorts that makes sure the fact that every girl in that hall has a chance to dance. Because as a singles group, maybe they're going with somebody, but on that particular night, they mix and they mingle, and every lady gets to dance an equal amount. Some may be a little bit more as it's going to work out, but they're going to get half the evening dancing. Now, if you don't have a singles group in the area, I suggest you go to Sweden and have a change and come back as a man. I don't know, Noni, that's a toughie. Hey, Ron, I'll give you 1 minute.
Just a couple of comments. I'm Ron Ray from Panama City, Florida. I was married to a wonderful woman for almost 36 years, and then she passed away. Well, after a year or so, I met a young woman who was coming through square dance classes, and we wound up getting married. So she's faced with the problem of, number one, still learning the square dance, number two, learning to be square dance caller's wife, and I consciously try to make sure that I keep it not only fun for the dancers, but fun for her. So,
very nice. I know some callers who have been through divorces and married girls who were not in square dancing and ended up with second divorces because of the fact these girls played up, I can accept the role as the caller's wife, and I'm all for all of this, until they got married, and just could not accept that caller's role. In closing, first I want to thank my beautiful wife on my left of 37 years, who really is truly, well, I don't want to get too schmoozy here, a beautiful person in more ways than just her outward appearance, He wants dinner, she says, right? And on my immediate right, two truly beautiful people who we've gotten to know over the years from square dancing and working together, and a lot of admiration for Art and Martha Springer. Beautiful. In closing, I would like to say that if you think about a few simple words, ethics, human relations, and public relations, and develop a philosophy that is positive, your relationship with your caller partner should be a long and a happy one. And thank you for coming. Turn the mic over.
Ladies, one very important thing I'd like to add, please keep the lines of communications open with your husband. If something's bothering you, tell him about it. Don't let a wall build up between you. Okay? Thank you for being here.
Thank you all for coming.
Yeah. Oh, do these get turned in at the desk, or we don't collect these, do we? I don't think. Oh, okay. We'll see that they get in the right place. This person's